Hello, the Gregory's Guru here, and I just wanted to do a little training session here today. In my travels, I've seen a lot of different things out there as far as how our new natural buns are turning out. We've actually used our natural hamburger buns to kind of talk a little bit about how to handle these products. Now, if you're new to Gregory's and these natural buns are new to you and you hadn't used a Gregory's hamburger bun or a roll in the past, there's a couple things going on that I think you need to know about. First of all, the Gregory's buns typically are a little richer dough, so they're a little more tender and a little more temperamental in the proof box. And to couple with that, the natural buns, of course, we've taken all the chemicals out and now we have an all-natural process. And that also is going to have a little bit of an effect on how much durability it's going to have, especially in the proof box. So what I've got here is three different scenarios that I want to go through with you. Obviously, we've got our optimal one, and then we've got one where we put it into the proof box from a frozen state, and then we've also got one where we've overproofed it. And I wanted to just discuss with you a little bit about how that affects the product and why you should handle it in a certain way, and also how to set up your proof box correctly. Okay, first we want to talk about the proof box. It's really important with these richer doughs and the fact that we're using the natural product that we get the proof box set up correctly. What we want optimally is an 85% humidity and 95 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit temperature in our proof boxes. Now, not all proof boxes will tell you exactly what's going on inside there. So we've got a couple of tricks we're going to show you that will help you determine what is 85% humidity. One thing for sure we don't want to have is a rainforest going on in there. So if you've got running water dripping out of the bottom of your proof box, there's a good chance you're up there around 99% humidity. I run into that a lot out in the field, so we want to make sure we're turning that down. So just because it says 85% on the dial doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going on in there. So what's the tricks you can use if you don't have a psychrometer or some other tool to measure the humidity? What we use is, for one thing, is if you've got dripping water on your pan, dripping down to the buns below, that's for sure too much humidity. Now if it's totally dry in there, you'll be able to see that on the top of the roll. It'll be like a skin. So optimally, the roll should be nice and moist on the top, and when you drag your hand along the bottom of the pan, you should feel it to be moist but not dripping wet. And that's kind of what we determine as 85% humidity. Okay, let's get right down into this. Now we've got our finished product out in front of us. The rolls in the center here were produced the optimum way. We put them in the cooler overnight, which allows for the fermentation process to start. It's going to help with the shelf life and the flavor, so the end product is going to turn out much better. You'll notice also that it's a nice rounded bun and it's clustered really well for us. The rolls on my left, your right, are actually a product where, and you run into this sometimes, where a store will find out that they didn't break out enough rolls, or maybe they decide they don't think they need to break them out the night before, and they'll put them right into the proof box frozen. You'll notice the difference between these two. This is a much flatter roll, and we'll get into the interior of it in a little bit. You don't get the nice rounded, but I know you can't, through the filming, feel the tops of this, but this is a very firm product, and it hasn't had good fermentation. It's also going to have a shorter shelf life, and the flavor will be real bland. It won't, the sugars in that have not worked well with the yeast, so you're not going to get a good tasting bun. And then on my right, your left, we've actually kicked up the humidity in the proof box, and we basically have proofed this the same length of time as this one, but with that extra humidity, a lot of the old-time bakers, or maybe bakers that don't know what you should do as far as humidity, will crank it up so that they can speed things along. And you'll notice that you get a real flat looking roll. It's very, very big, and when we look in the center, you'll see that the grain is real open. There again, that's going to have an effect on the shelf life as well, because the cell structure is opened up and it doesn't have a nice tight grain, so you're not going to get as many days on it. Alright, let's look at the inside here real quick. Here's our optimum bun. You'll notice that it's got a real tight grain. It's got a nice soft interior to it. It's going to eat really well. You'll even notice the nice roundness of it here. I'll put that in the middle here. Then we'll look at the one where we put it into the proof box frozen. And you'll notice this one is, as I said, it's a real flat bun, as you can see in comparison to this one. But it also has a real kind of open grain where the yeast and the sugars have tried to work, and they haven't been able to do it in a slow, gentle process. And this bun actually took 2 hours in the proof box, so while the baker thought that it would make sense to take it frozen out of the case and put it directly into the proof box because that'll save time, it actually took the same amount of time it would have taken if you put it in the cooler overnight and brought it out and put it in the proof box. Actually, it takes less time because this is only proofed for an hour in the proof box, so you're saving time. Now, if you had to take it out of a box because you needed more rolls, you can actually do that. You just want to let them thaw on the floor at ambient temperature, and they take about an hour or so. And you want to wait until they're completely thawed and then put it in the proof box. So the length of time is basically the same, even though you didn't have a chance to put it in the proof box overnight. And then our last little model here is the uber wet proof box with a little bit of overproofing going on. It actually proofed the same length of time, but you can see where you're starting to get some air pockets in here, and the roll is real, like it doesn't have any structure to it. So if you were to put a burger on there or some chicken or whatever you were going to use it for, it's basically not going to hold up well for you to make a nice sandwich. So let's look at these side by side. Here's our nice looking one. You can see the nice tight grain. And then, once again, I showed you this before, but here's our one we did from a frozen state. So that's kind of a couple of tips. You can certainly get a hold of your sales rep if you've got any questions, and they can get you with our technical staff. If you're having problems with any of this or you're not sure how to get your proof box dialed in correctly, certainly give us a call or message me on Facebook. I get a lot of messages out there, and I'll respond to you as quick as I can. And thank you again.